Who's doing the introduction part? Alan? Alan, are you doing the introduction?
If you want, sure, I can do that. Good afternoon. The Design Review Board 2 public meeting of March 22nd, 2008 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourself during the meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrator all cell phones and pagers. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including the applicant, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker cards provided at the table by front door and submit it to staff. You will be called to present a case or speak on a specific items as desired. Anyone who wishes to be renoticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by front door and submit to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current DRB agendas are available by calling our DRB hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. Handout of describing the procedures of the meetings, possible board decisions, and DRB reconsiderations and appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that the appeals must be filed within 7 calendar days of the DRB decision date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items as he or she discretion. Roll call.
Board Member Geragos?
Here.
Board Member Carter?
Here.
Chairperson Pro Tem Malikian?
Here.
And thank you. I think that's my cue to introduce myself to my fellow board members and to staff and to the public out there. My name is Randy Carter. I live at 1614 Ben Lomond, in Northwest Glendale. We've lived there for about 20 years, and I'm delighted to be a new member of the Design Review Board No. 2. And by way of introduction, I just say that I come to it with some bit of history in that in the living room of my house was the initial meeting with city council members and residents that sort of thought about for the very first time a design review ordinance actually being introduced to the city of Glendale. I take a very small measure of credit for that. There were many people that did yeoman work, real hard, thoughtful planning to bring that about. And so here we are some 10, 15 years later, and now I are one of them. So I think I'd like to tell the public that I come to it with no prejudices other than that I am a homeowner here, and I realize that all of us that do own homes in Glendale, we want to have the most valuable property that our money has invested in, and yet we want to have some sensitivity to the charm and historic nature of Glendale. And there, are many currents swirling around that I'm sure I will see in my deliberations here. But I say this, that it's nothing that other communities throughout the United States have not encountered and dealt with in a professional manner. And I have no doubt that we will do that also. And I'd like to thank staff on this very first meeting for all the work that I know that they're going to contribute. And was telling about staff and the new trends, increased participation with staff and the applicant. That was not always so. When DRB first started, there was a mindset that I probably even supported, that, wait a minute, staff, has been a witness to some pretty difficult projects, and we didn't know whether maybe that was the great place to invest some deliberation. But I think over the years, because these situations have been thought about and deliberated, not only here, but in communities all over Southern California, that now they are a very valuable asset in working with the applicants, so that the applicants understand that this is not a torture chamber here. This is a deliberative body trying to get them the best possible project they can have, and that can only help the city of Glendale. So having said that, let the fun begin.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So let's start. I guess the first item on the agenda has been postponed, from my understanding. So we're gonna basically jump to the next one, which is 2 PDR.
Can I just...
Do they have to formally ask for a...
Right. There is the motion that this to be continued to the April 10th without noticing. And if there is a motion,
Now, I understand that this is because of the signage that they didn't
Yes.
post on time.
so I'm going to have a motion by one board member and second, and then the roll call as normal. Is there a motion?
I will move that agenda DRB 2 PDR 2007-075 Apple at 1960 Starvale be continued.
Okay.
Do you have a date?
10th of April, which is in 2 weeks' time.
Seconded.
And, okay.
Without notification, you need that?
That's correct, yes. So this is roll call. Board Member Gregos,
Yes.
Board Member Carter,
Yes.
Chairman Malikian.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we did unfortunately skip oral communications. Yeah, there are no
I see.
staff.
Well,
Yeah, the report regarding posting the agenda.
okay. So do we have any?
Yeah, I will just note that the agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside of City Hall on or before 5 p.m. on March 21st, 2008.
Okay.
I don't know if you have any cards for
We
oral
don't have any oral communication.
Okay, nor are there any staff announcements under 4A.
All right. So 2 PDR 2007-120-P1, 1127 East Durand Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Presented before you is case number 2, PDR 2007-120-P1, located at 1127 East Durand Street. Applicant is proposing to add 952 square feet of living space to the front unit of an existing duplex. Of that 952 square foot, 197 will be added to the first floor and 755 will be added to the second floor. After the construction is done, if approved and done, the total square footage will be 1,872 square foot. Let me also mention that there is 2 units on the lot right now. The first front unit was built in 1923 with no garage, and the second unit in the back, which is smaller, was built in 1940 with 1-car garage. They're not proposing to add any floor area to the second unit in the back, so they will not be asked to provide a second car garage for that. But they are being asked to add a 2-car garage for the front unit if they're going to add any floor area. And they are proposing a 2-car garage. The existing house has a pitched roof. The main entry is accessed through the front porch. There are tapered columns supporting the front porch roof. The addition will have pitched and hip roof with the same slope to match the existing with exposed rafters. The rear unit will maintain its existing pedestrian and vehicular access. The applicant is also proposing that the common outdoor space for both units be located at the rear of the lot, over here. Because this submittal is a preliminary submittal, we did not require them to have a landscape plan. However, I will get through the recommendation portion, and we do recommend that they add more plants and trees in the back of the property. The proposed addition is located toward the rear of the existing front unit, and it is 2-story addition. The existing 1-story house at the front will remain at its current configuration, and its appearance will be maintained from the street. The neighborhood is comprised of a variety of 1- and 2-story houses. In fact, the property right next door is 2.5-story, meaning 2-story house, 2-story apartment building over a semi-subterranean garage. The project's massing is focused towards the middle of the lot, not the rear, but rear of the front house and middle of the lot, so it's not really having any major impact on the street level, I should say. The materials that are proposed to be used are clear double insulated glass windows to be set in fiberglass. There will be wood sidings throughout. By the way, the elevation drawings that we have here are not up to date. They are proposing wood sidings throughout, and there will be no glass blocks. These have been taken out. You can see it on your handouts, but they're not here. Just to clarify that. And the roof will be asphalt shingle. Staff recommends an approval to move to the final based on the following recommendations that are in the comments that we have already also made. Applicant has been able to provide the addition by creating a proposal that fits well within the neighborhood and the site. The massing of the proposed project is focused towards the rear of the house and middle of the lot, which reduces its impact on the street level, and the overall appearance of the addition complements the front unit, first one-story house, and fits well within the neighborhood as far as its massing goes. I am available for questions.
I do have some
Yes.
questions, but I will wait until the... Do you
No,
guys-
go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, this is what I understand, and I went by and I didn't walk into the property, but what I understand is that there's an existing structure, which is this,
Yes.
which is a one-story structure, and then this is the other unit, which this is considered as the duplex.
Yes, this will be the front unit,
This
yes.
is the front unit, and this is the existing garage.
One-car garage, yes.
For both,
For this, it was built
For
with
this.
this, for this.
for this. But this one doesn't have a garage.
Never had one. yes.
Never had one. So now what we're going to do is we're going to maintain this.
Move it, however.
So basically, same thing, move it back, and then we're going to have the two-car for the front unit.
unit, yes.
Okay. Now, what we're looking at right now is just this. We have nothing on the back unit.
Pretty much.
Correct.
Pretty much.
Okay.
As far as elevation drawings go, yes.
Probably should be drawn to the,
Was that?
they should be drawn to the back.
Yeah. I'm glad it's preliminary, so we can give them some direction of where to go with this.
Okay. Applicant is also in the audience. If you have any questions.
Any more questions? We okay? We good?
Aside for the applicant.
Okay, I only have one card, which is the architect, Jones Messi.
My name is Johannes Masei, and I'm the architect of this project. And I would like to thank you, board members, and the chairperson, and also Gevorg for giving me the opportunity to speak. I think everything has been covered by Gevorg. That we'd like to propose the two-story addition, and the style of the building would echo the existing semi-craftsman or bungalow style of the house, which is the front unit, with the wood siding, the gable and hip roof on the new units, and also the wood siding and exposed roof rafters that will complement basically the neighborhood. And also, I just would like to add that on the east of the property, we have three-story apartment buildings, and on the west, we have two-story similar building as we are proposing. And also across the street, we have a lot of mixed one- and two-story buildings. Thank you, and I'm more than happy to incorporate the input and feedback into our design, since the work also mentioned that this is just a preliminary design. Thank you.
I have a question. Which elevation are we supposed to be looking at? The one on the handout, or the one comment on the handout, or the
Actually, the handout is more up to date. The renderings was submitted earlier.
So what you're
after
proposing
getting-
is the entire structure that you're proposing for the front to be covered with siding?
The addition, yeah. The front already has sidings already.
The front and the back should match with the same kind of siding? wood
Okay,
siding.
okay.
Is that what you're proposing?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
All right. Okay.
I have some questions.
Oh.
A couple of things. You're going 1'6" above the existing plate line, so you can maintain the ceiling joists that are there and then float a floor system above that?
Yes,
Is that
we
what
try
you're
to
doing?
minimize basically, the 8-foot is the floor plate, and
Right.
also the second floor,
Right.
we maintain that one too.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because all that's really left of the ceiling joist, because you're going to put the stair up in the back corner,
Right,
all that would be left of the ceiling joist is just a little bit of that back corner of the bathroom.
right,
Because I think my comment's going to be trying to lower the mass of the back building.
right.
And rather than having it float above, since that's the only really area that's being impacted, if you could just use
For the same
let that,
floor.
you just go from the same thing, because it'll,
Okay.
at least 9 inches would help. I mean,
Sure.
a little bit.
Sure.
It might help you with the stair, too.
Okay,
The other thing was, it looks like you might want to look at how the fascia is done on the addition.
Okay.
And if there is a fascia, just to try to match the existing house
sure.
on that. And sort of the way that you did the roof seems a little kind of modern, a little bit, in terms of how you do that. And I think this is sort of a side note, and I was actually going to ask Stephanie what the staff recommendation is. I don't actually have a problem with 2 stories at the front,
Okay.
and I think it looks funny when the 2 stories at the back of the house. That's my personal preference. So I don't see that as a positive necessarily. So, and I think what happens, especially on something like this, is you look at it and you say, "Oh, isn't that unfortunate that the one house ran into the other? They had this collision." So I think you'd want to do some element. Am I talking like this?
Actually, I was going
This is a
to
question?
kind of
Okay.
cut you off because.
I apologize,
if you
I'm
have
doing the wrong
a
way.
question- Yeah,
There's a
if
question.
you have a question, just ask him, then we can discuss.
No, that's fine. Actually, I'll go on and talk about it. Sorry.
Okay.
Got off on the wrong track. It's mostly the play height, sorry.
Okay.
And the fascia.
All right.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
I'm trying to understand, what is this material? This darker,
Oh, it's just shading. It's basically shading.
the different
Oh,
color?
the shading.
Shading, right.
Shadow.
It seems like, almost like material change.
That's the reason why I put the color plans.
Yeah, that's
better.
The idea is to create an animation on the facade and break down the scale of the building so it doesn't look like a bulky.
It seems like there are 2 different colors of shading, so it's kind of confusing. Now, I think it would be nice if you can include a roof plan
Okay.
for us, because it seems there's a disconnect between some of the elevations and the side elevations.
Sure.
I can't figure out exactly what happens there.
Okay. That's great.
And I just have one question. If you could help talk me through the front elevation.
Okay.
I'm having a little trouble. I look at the site plans. I see the first floor, the second floor. Then I look at the front elevation, south elevation. So that is, that's the street side, correct?
That's correct.
Where is that second floor? I see the site plans, they're sort of, the project on the garage is weighted to I guess that'd be the
North.
west.
North and west.
And yet I see that the front elevation, it's very much centered up.
It doesn't stack on the garage wall. It's in from the garage wall on the second floor.
Oh, okay. There, that'll do
Garage, it has a bigger setback on the second floor.
it. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you look at the second floor plan, you can kind of see the hatched area.
On the second floor.
A3 sheet,
Yeah.
you'll kind of see the hatching of I guess it would be a closet. That entire face is covered with the elevation.
Okay,
You see that?
yeah.
All right. Well, I just wanted to commend you of coming as preliminary for this project. It's always helpful. We're gonna give you some pointers, and hopefully you can take this with you and bring it more positive and more helpful plans. Always remember, the plans that you bring in, the more information you have, the easier it's for us to understand what you're proposing, and it makes our decision much better and much faster, so we can make more accurate decisions on this. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the public hearing is closed. We'll have it open amongst ourselves, and if you have any Comments, issues, questions, discussions? Do you want to?
Since you started, maybe you can.
I'll finish up. I won't go on too long. Okay, well, let me just go back a couple things. When you look at how you drew the fascia, it looks like the fascia is actually out beyond the roof. It's okay, I'm just going to give you some comments. So I don't know if that's actually gutter or what, but look at how you're doing the fascia. I actually like the way you revised the windows. I think that is helpful. But I think in terms of massing, I think what makes it difficult for me, I think it makes the project more difficult, is that you've made it sort of a barbell shape where the ends have the extension on it, as opposed to something where if you did it where it was slender and the projection was at the center, I think when you look at the massing of it, you would think of it as a narrower building that just happened to have an extension partway through it. So you'd see the extension as just a smaller element off of a narrower building. And I think that what that might do, especially on the front elevation, if we're trying to make it minimize, if that's the goal, is to minimize the street elevation, I think that would probably help, to do that. And I think then you would have a roof size that's a little more consistent with the lower house, so that you could probably do the same clip gable. Probably recommend doing the clip gable because I think it's the character of the existing house. So that's a part of the character. The other thing is the sloping shed roof that goes to the back on the existing house. You might think about a gable element that would come down the center to kind of help massing-wise, at least get the rear house attached a little better to the front visually. I just think the barbell shape I think it's causing you more trouble because then the ends that seem like want to fade back into the house is the area that it's pushing out wider. So those are my comments. But I would love to get a comment at some point about that whole where the second floor should go. Because anyway, side note.
If I could be clearer on your question.
Is there a preference that a second floor element is towards the middle or back? Is that within staff? Is that a?
Well, we don't have that kind of, for lack of a better word, formulaic approach generally. In this case, we thought since this was the applicant's design, one thing, and that I think Gevorg pointed out in the staff report, is that one advantage is when it is back from the existing house, then the appearance, this is a little more than 36 feet back from the face of the existing house, then the appearance from the street changes much less than if it was forward.
Sure.
I'm sure if they had come with a solution that added to the very front of the house, we would have worked with them and with a dialogue in order to make it the best it could be. I don't think that we have a very specific answer for you, only in that we look at every unique site and every design that comes forward to us.
Excellent. I was just curious if that was a intent of staff, but that's great. Excellent. That's
It is a recommendation in hillsides for hillside design guidelines to tear it back, but not in the multifamily zone.
And if I may make a comment to that, I think a little of this becomes in the overall question of massing.
Right.
As we've gone around the city and seen some honkin' big places, the comment invariably comes up from civilians, and I do put myself in that category. When you see one say, well, at least they stepped it back a little bit on the second floor. The early ones that were right in your face on the front street side, now there's a new generation where they're still big, but they're stepped back a little.
Absolutely, and my intent would not be for that. I just think a lot of times there's the thing that we're so lucky here within Glendale, there are beautiful two-story homes, spectacular two-story homes that you wouldn't mind having on your street that I think add to the character of a street. Yeah. And I don't think we should automatically say don't put the mass at the front. I think you have to do it well. And I think it can be a positive to the street. I think a lot of times when you see the little pop-up in the back of a building, I think it looks, funny, like somebody wasn't really trying. So
I concur with that, and I will say that even on my block, we have a second story, a very large one, that talked about what you were talking about, mirroring the first floor right on the same line, and it's a successful second story, so.
I think it's, it's all the way it's done. Poor examples of both, but,
Now that you're point on, would you like to continue and just finish your comments?
I would actually concur with that question about the sloping front roof there towards the back. I've visited the property, and, you don't see it much from that angle. You tend to, the development next door, it is a, 30, 60 unit apartment building. So, but it does give, I would concur with those comments about the sloping back there. If you could do some kind of a gabling effect to make it look less like, oh, there's a house, and then they stuck.
yeah, it's less for the elevation. It's really, if you're looking at it, there's some big element that ties them together.
Yeah. That's my only comment.
No, I agree with the lowering idea. I think it's a good thing because the existing house is very, very low, and I think there is a basic problem with the way the massing is done is that the new extension or the expansion, it looks like it's doing its own thing, and the old house, it's there, and they have nothing to do with each other. Almost they don't want to talk to each other. I think somehow the massing should be resolved in the way that is the idea to put two things next to each other, or there's maybe a ground level or a first floor that then something is added on top of it. It has to be kind of clear, because the best addition to anything is that once everything is done, you shouldn't be able to tell that there was an addition done. It should look like as if this is the new thing, and this is it has its own identity, and it's a new building. I think this looks like there's an old building and a new building next to each other. So I think somehow you need to find out how to bring these two together and make it one. That's whether it's massing, the roofs, how the eave lines work together and extend into each other and connect these two buildings to make one building. That's a general comment.
Okay. Is that? All right. I have several, and hopefully it'll help you with taking this project to the final stage. First of all, we need to look at this as duplex, and there is an existing building in the back, and there is a proposed addition to the front unit. So one thing that the site plan is lacking is somehow creating an access from the street to the back unit. You currently are showing 12-foot wide driveway, and I'm not sure if that is the minimum required. If it's not, I would recommend narrowing this down a little bit and creating some sort of a landscape buffer between the property line and the driveway, and not just bringing the driveway all the way to the fence line. So I think that will give you a nice buffer between the 2.5-story building that you have on the east side, and bring some softening of all this driveway that you're adding. I also would like to see some decorative paving, some sort of a decoration on the driveway, and all this land hardscape that you're proposing. The thing that it's missing on the site plan is the trash and recycle area for both spaces, and I've always been a big advocate of common outdoor space. And I think you do have a substantial size area. It would be nice to be somewhat secluded to be exclusively used for both units, but yet the back unit would not suffer if the front unit comes and uses the back area. So I would recommend on your landscape drawings that you're required to have, get a landscape architect and discuss the site planning and some of these issues with them. As far as the addition, I've seen probably I would say probably 3 or 4 dozen of these types of additions and projects. And probably 1/3 of them has been successfully done. And either first go-around or in several cases. And many of them, we've returned them for redesign many times. So my first recommendation is, and we've always asked the staff to keep a copy of those projects, whichever ones that we felt that it really met what exact guidelines and what we really liked. So I would recommend going there and talking to the staff and kind of coming up with some examples of projects, and this is not a unique project. What my colleagues have mentioned is pretty much right on, and it's been always our concern and my concern that whenever the addition of the new and the old kind of meet that point itself has always been the problem. And how to solve that has been the challenge. And a lot of cases, you may end up going back and looking at what you have as an existing and use that as a basis of your design elements for your new addition, so that you can create more of a uniform addition there. The thing that I see here is kind of confusing is that all types of roofs are being proposed, either the existing pitch roof or the gable or the hip roofs. So I would recommend using one style. If you want to modify the front to meet the back, somehow bring that. My recommendation would be is to keep what you have in the front and try to manage and mimic what you have in the back, both the fascia details, both the ending details, rafter details. One thing that it's not in our purview to get in, but I would recommend you doing so, is that getting into the floor plan and kind of looking at some of the functions that you've placed within the floor plan, because that kind of dictates what the massing is going to end up looking like on the exterior. Having this square box of bedrooms exactly on top of the garage, and then having this narrow family room, kind of a barbell shape that my colleagues were mentioning, that itself, to me, it's a very weak floor plan, thus reflecting the exterior and not really helping you design to the level that we expect to see the design. So I think by going back and looking at some of these wasted spaces, and there's this room there that I have no idea what it is, and that could be part of the facade changes that we're looking for to kind of create a transition point between the new and the old, and how that merges together. Maybe at some areas you remove, I mean, these are just thoughts. First of all, I would probably visit the window selection, and rather than using vinyl, I would go more of a higher end. And if you are going to...
It is fiberglass. I'm sorry for interrupting.
If it is that's what I was going to say. Okay, if it is fiberglass, then I would probably create a lot more substantial frame around it to kind of create this better effect of the windows and the depth of the windows. But I would re-look at these kinds of details of a very contemporary features versus the old, and you mentioned craftsman bungalow. And if you are, and if you've seen me speak past several years, if you mention a style of architecture, I'm going to use that as my guideline and design your plans based on the architecture that it's asking for. So if I'm looking at this as a craftsman style architecture, it's nowhere near there. If it's a bungalow style, it's nowhere near there. So I think what you need to do, I'm just commenting, and you can just absorb it, and hopefully it'll help you. And if you are going towards that route and using those styles of architecture, I would revisit this entire design and then go back and study the bungalow style or study the craftsman style and see what makes the craftsman a craftsman. It's handcrafted elements of post and beam and woods, the rafters versus the posts and different things that kind of come together, and it's crafted. And there's nothing here that kind of shows us that. So I would highly recommend you visiting this. But going back to my comment, and these are just ideas. Right now you're showing over here a storage of about 62 square feet. And I'm not sure what that square storage is all about. But another thought is that if you find another place to place this, maybe an element here, an element there, and create a balcony over this, this can get carved out, a trellis element or something that kind of works with the craftsman style. A balcony may appear here to kind of create some transition points. The roof lines may kind of play the same playful effects of the front, and look at the design as that, and take this to the next level. It is to me, it's a wasted opportunity, and it's not a craftsman nor a bungalow. And if it comes back like this, I would encourage my colleagues not to accept this. But I would look at the quality of the detailing. This is not going to work. You're going to have a header there. The header, with the post and beam, use that. It's an opportunity to detail that properly, create an overhang, maybe some exposed rafters like you mentioned, or, some, header and something there. Don't use Home Depot material, this garage doors, go a step beyond and use a better quality doors and garage doors. And then things like this, right now you're saying that the entire facade is going to be covered with siding. Again, it's a good gesture, but use the opportunity to bring different materials. Maybe some, the sidings can occur here, and then some areas, you want to keep it as plastic. I don't know. Just don't use one typical detail. You are going to have the joint between the existing and the new. How's that going to transition? And so look at those things. And lastly is I would recommend a very nice rendering. And the renderings always is helpful both for yourself and us to be able to render it in an actual background of looking at what is there and how the massing fits within the two large elements there. Obviously, whatever you do, it's going to be proportioned, because of the masses of buildings you have next to you. But I think we want to see the building not just be a squatty little, addition in the back, but yet we don't want it to be overwhelmed with, overwhelming the front unit. So I think all of these will, if you do take that and look at this, I think we'll be okay with that. Overall, I personally don't see a problem with the addition. I think it's fine. I have no problem with the second floor addition. I have no problem with the addition to the front unit. So overall, I have no problem with the proposed project, but I have concerns about the way that the design has been implemented. I think yeah.
So there were a lot of comments, and just to kind of wrap it up and clarify for the applicant as we continue to work with the applicant, it seems that overall the board is amenable to the size and scale of the addition, but the applicant is encouraged to look at the massing and particularly the roof forms insofar as they relate to the existing house. There seems to be agreement on working to refine the transition between the existing house and the new house. And since the statement was made that the house is a modified Craftsman, it should have those details. I guess the question is if the applicant decides to go with a more contemporary version, as long as it's complementary, would that be acceptable to the board? Because, the words on sometimes defining the style is very difficult.
With quote-unquote contemporary is the drawing that I'm seeing right now that he's brought in, that's the only name that I can put on the proposed design as a contemporary. But to me, a contemporary needs to be well thought of.
Mm-hmm.
It can't just be a single, non-divided, a single casement kind of a window and call it a contemporary, and just be very. It has to be contemporary, and if you know what I mean, as far as the style, it can't just be just taking a simple fiberglass window and placing it in and putting some clean railings and just call it a contemporary. That's not going to be a contemporary.
Understood. I guess I think what we want clarity on as we move forward is there a sense by the board that they're to move more towards the Craftsman style for the addition would be the way to go, rather than to move more towards a separate but complementary style, because there seem to be
I think I can
there seem to
answer
be
that.
options.
The comment that I made was that if you're adding to a Craftsman house and you're calling the new addition as a contemporary, that has to be such a contrast that all of a sudden it becomes something very unique. I don't think, with what I see and the intention here, that leap can be made. But it's kind of in abstract right now, what I'm saying. But what I think will work for this addition is that the new building as a whole should look like one. I don't think you can put anything next to the existing house other than following the same details and find a way of working out the massing that will let the two become one.
Okay, so that was the clarification that will help us as we move forward with the applicant.
May I add, the challenge of this property, and it sounds like most of us did a drive-by, it's a cheery little Craftsman house in the front there, and so if you had never seen that and you just seen the addition, you say, oh, okay, that's an addition. But having seen the Craftsman, you sort of want to continue that feel into the second part of it. And that is a challenge, because the older Craftsman style is quirky, it's got idiosyncrasies, it's got all of that, and melding that to this will be the challenge.
Okay, well, thank you for that clarification. In addition, the applicant was asked to see if there was a way to use the opportunity for more than one material to enhance the design, to develop the site plan and landscape plan to enhance the common open space, and that I think was the sense of the board. So thank you for that.
Landscape of the driveway.
Landscape of driveway, I think bringing the driveway all the way to the property line, I think if we have the room to narrow up the driveway a little bit and create some sort of a narrow...
There's at least 2 feet they
buffer
can move.
If there is, I don't want to create additional burden on them, but I think it would be having a nice buffer between the fence and the concrete, and then having a decorative driveway, I think it would definitely help.
Thank you.
All right. So do we have a motion with, I guess we already know the comments. I don't know if you guys
Stephanie
want
went
to hear
over
it
the comments
again,
already.
but
Yes.
it's up to you guys.
Is there a motion?
Well, is
And
that
the motions,
is that a back redesign, or is that a back,
we're...
This is a preliminary.
It is a preliminary. We can give a motion to proceed to the final, or we can give a motion to have them redo all of this comments and come back to us. It would be their purview, because preliminary is it's not mandatory, it's their call. So final is mandatory, so it's our call. If you feel comfortable with the comments that they can pick up and they're okay to go to final, we can do that. And it'll be up to them, and if they
I think it is
feel-
up to them. I think if they could incorporate the ideas, there would be nothing wrong with them going ahead. It's sort of at their gamble that what they're doing would work, yeah.
Right.
Well, we actually didn't hear from the architect. Usually there's a response.
Not necessarily. If we have a specific comment,
Okay.
I don't think there was anything.
Then I would move this project to final with the comments as stated.
Okay, do we have a second?
We have a second.
All right. Motion made by Mr. Carter and second by Mr. Zarafian. This will be a roll call. Mr. Zarafian?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Gergos?
Yes.
Chairperson Malikian?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more items on the agenda?
Doing the minutes? Can you get the minutes?
We do have the minutes. Have you guys had a chance to read the minutes? Any comments or anything?
I don't have the minutes.
I didn't get the minutes.
Do you guys want to just go through it quickly, or do you want us to continue it? We have the time, so.
Yeah, we can just review it quickly.
You-
I didn't get it.
We have minutes.
Anything we want to discuss?
I just have one item, and I did ask staff off camera. With the Starvale project that was continued for lack, just for the record, for lack of posting, did the applicant give any explanation, it just forgot, or it was not clear, or what?
I'm afraid we don't have any information on that. It's just reported to us by the city clerk's office that it's not there on the day that
Yep.
it needs to be noticed 10 days in advance. As you're reviewing the minutes, perhaps we can make a couple of announcements. As you're aware, the City Council on Tuesday night adopted an ordinance to make some procedural shifts that we've been talking about, but there will be a presentation at your next meeting of the new ordinance so that there's a clarity for you what those changes are. In addition, there will be 2 more reports delivered to council. We anticipate that on April 15th, there will be a report going to council on the process of DRB exemptions and essentially discussing the counter operation and the criteria and so forth that's used when staff is looking at a project that falls within the ability for staff to exempt at the counter. And then following that, on April 22nd, we expect to, if everything goes well, we'll expect to talk to the council about the possibility of a study session together with the boards, both design review boards, to talk about the new process as it evolves. Oh, and there's still time to go to, Jay Platt is doing a presentation on modern architecture in Glendale. We have some fabulous examples, and Tim, I think you know where that is?
Yes, it's at the United Methodist Church here on East Broadway, just about 2 blocks from here, and I believe it starts at 7.
Very, very good.
But, yeah, Glendale has a very rich heritage of modern architecture, and it's a chance to get inside that church, too.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we have copies of minutes to, actually,
Actually,
I'm lucky,
you-
since I wasn't there.
We're not here,
So you guys can pass some minutes.
Gentlemen, we're
It's fine.
okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay. And if my pen works, we'll be good. All right, then, if That's said, and we're adjourned.